It used to be you could go in and look, and you could see individual classroom scores. So you know, okay, if over a period of time you got this teacher, the kids are the lowest, you need to look at that. I mean, take a hard look at what's there.
All right, I got 6:30.
Good. Okay.
Move on to the fun stuff, the easy stuff. 6:30, this is the Newport Board of Selectmen's meeting for April 4th, 2022. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Agenda review. Herb?
No, I'm good.
All right. Barry?
I'm okay.
Keith?
I'm all set.
I'm set. Hunter, anything?
Nothing, thank you.
All right. And we have minutes from March 21st. We have a motion on the minutes from March 21st.
Move to accept.
Second.
Any discussion or changes on the minutes as presented? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? All right. Consent agenda. On the back of your agenda is tonight's consent agenda. Do I have a motion on that?
Move to accept.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Second. Any changes, questions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? All right. Open forum. This is the opportunity for any member of the public that wishes to address the board to do so. Members of the public will be given an opportunity to speak on agenda items when we get to them. Is there anyone that'd like to speak to the board tonight? We have a hand on Zoom. Good evening.
Good evening.
Can
Boy,
you-
you guys are fast. I'm on Verizon time and I'm a little behind you.
Okay, well, can you state your name for the record?
Just about to. I'm
Okay.
Virginia Irwin and I'm here tonight as your moderator.
Okay,
And I'm hoping to just talk with you about tomorrow night. I will certainly wait until you get to the item of assigning warrant articles, if that makes sense. I specifically also want to thank John Hooper for his years of service on the board. I'm sorry you're stepping down, but with 4 children and 2 jobs, I get it. So I wish you all the best. Sorry?
Stepping down.
what's that?
Careful.
Go ahead, Virginia.
That's it. I'm hoping to talk with you about the meeting for tomorrow night. If there's questions that you have, or concerns, or procedure,
Why don't
so
you-
I will
Why don't you
either
cover
do
your...
that now or wait.
Yep, why don't you do it now since you're here and you won't have to hang around and listen to all the boring stuff.
Well, some of the boring stuff is about the assignment of the warrant articles.
Okay.
I think that's just pro forma though, Jeff, that you're gonna say you, and you?
Pretty much, yes.
Okay.
We will be discussing the warrant article in the community center because we will be modifying that tomorrow. So we may have some discussion on that.
Okay, in the community center part or in the warrant
In
article
the
part?
community center article.
Okay, so I may just hang in there for that discussion.
Okay.
I think we're ready to go. I've met with the clerk. We've talked to the school about the setup. We have arranged for someone to sing the national anthem physically in the building, not around the corner. So we won't have to repeat what happened at the school meeting. And I think, just pro forma as usual.
Okay, and the meetings and the deliberative session starts at 6 p.m., correct?
Correct, at the Newport Middle High School,
At the gymnasium.
in the gymnasium.
Yeah.
Probably the entrance will be one of the gymnasium doors. The supervisors, I believe, will set up right behind that. There'll be 2 aisles, as there were for the school meeting, one for people who choose not to wear a mask, one for people who choose to wear a mask, 2 podiums, and NCTV will broadcast it live But a caveat to those listening at home, you cannot participate unless you are physically in the building. It's
Okay.
not a Zoom meeting, it's just a broadcast live.
Right, it's a deliberative meeting based upon the laws of the state of New Hampshire, and there's no executive order or anything from the governor modifying the way we do it.
None,
Yeah.
none.
And to participate, once you're there, people should bring their photo ID, correct?
Yes, to show to the supervisors, and then you'll be given a voter card.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's the usual, raise it up, hold it down. We'll do a hand count for those situations that, that if there's an amendment, this is not a time to vote on the actual warrant articles,
Right.
but only to amend them for financial reasons. We can't change the intent, but we can certainly change, or the voters can, I should say,
Yep.
the financial implications.
And you'll go through all that tomorrow once you get your packed house.
I will.
All right, anything else for us on this subject?
That's all I have.
All right.
I'll mute myself and listen.
Well, any questions for Virginia? No, I think we pretty much have done it or seen it done enough. We can
Right.
we know our part.
Okay.
All right,
Great. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
you're welcome. Anyone else for public participation at this point? Yes, sir. State your name for the record.
Bert Spalding Sr. First of all is to thank you, Jeff, for showing up at the school board meeting and asking for our rights to speak, to be opened up as you have them here. Here, in this room, you've had a right to speak under your tenure. But even before that, way back, I don't even remember a suggestion in all my years of watching of any limitation on time. And you have survived the First Amendment. All of you, through all of us, through all of those years, without the major disruptions that are implied by the policy that says we gotta have this 3-minute limit. So I say that to show the mindset of a different board. A board that does not want to discuss its shortcomings in a public meeting, when in fact the law says that's where you have to discuss it. So rather than do that, they just hide it. The last agenda for the school board that came out, I wrote 4 emails in order to get backup information for what was on the agenda. Okay, why? There's a policy that clearly states 4 days prior. Oh, that policy applies. But the policy committee, one person, the chairperson, can't make a decision at a meeting. The dichotomy is striking. So as a board member, how do you act without getting knowledge beforehand? How do you make or add to or take away from your feelings about particular issues without information coming from the administration? So all of that said, the 211 issue that has come up, and for those who do not understand, there are 211 elementary schools in the state of New Hampshire, and we are the proud school of being the absolute worst one on that list at 211. Number 1 is the best, 211 is the bottom of the barrel. Yet, we are told that Claremont is worse because it's a school at risk. But yet all of Claremont schools are higher on the list than we are. If we're not at risk, and at risk gets you money, why aren't we at risk and getting money? That all being said, I have sent an email out to a few people with the things that I think that we need to work on, and so that the public can ascertain what they want to say, if they want to say something, and the issues that we are up against in order to get off the bottom of the barrel. Now, some people think that I'm thinking we go from 211 to 11. That is, no, we'll never do that. I would be happy if we just got a third of the way up that list and then continued to try and go higher. But we can't stay at the bottom. We cannot be last. So I listed problems that people can think about what has to be done and can comment. My email said that the meeting was the 7th of April. It is not. It's the 14th. That was my error. But I find it interesting that we have this, what I call an emergency. I call it 211 because we are 211. But I tied it to 9/11. When this country had to change the way it did business, everybody had to do something different, and everybody felt different, and everybody didn't want it to happen again. So at 211, I don't think as a community we want to stay there. It doesn't help. Real estate sales? Oh, let's look at how the education system in Newport is. Oh, my God, they're at the bottom of the barrel. We've got kids. Do you want to buy a house here? You wonder about your grand list growing? It's growing this year because out-of-staters are coming up here and building homes. Not because people are coming here because this community has a good education system. So the things that I have listed are as follows. Problem areas. A, student testing reluctance. Let's get our students in a mindset where they are rewarded, or get them going in so that they feel secure that they will pass the test, they are proud to take it. We have to do something to change the reluctance. Parental involvement. Get the parents involved in their child's education as best you can. If you can't get the parents involved, then we have to find a way of helping that child to stay with their group. Staff issues. If there are any in this plan, we need to take care of them. We need to do whatever it needs to do because the staff being liked by particular people and not doing a job is an unacceptable situation with children being educated. The child comes first. So therefore, if we have to make adjustments and move people around, we have to. Laws, rules, etc., we don't want to break any. We want to abide by them. That being said, we have to get through somehow. And then comes the administration. If the administration cannot give us the answers to these questions at the next meeting, then as far as I'm concerned, there is a dereliction of duty. We have a problem, and the superintendent is our leader. He has to get up and do his job. We were given a presentation. The presentation, in my opinion, did not go over well, and I'm not the only one that thought that. We, over the years, have seen a number of them in education, many of them flushed. Next group is finances, revenue sources, so that we can put money into this first grade kindergarten year. We already have a budget that's poured in concrete, but if we can get funds from somewhere else, state and or Fed, we need to know all of the revenue sources beyond what we already know that are in the budget. And we need to know the expenses of what we are going to do. That being said, everybody that's out there has other items, problems, or ideas that the staff, students, parents, school board, administration, or public might express. Put it in writing to school board members or to the superintendent, to the school board, or can show up to speak. We do not have all summer to toy with this. we need to get started now for the end of August. That being said, there's a graduation somewhere in the middle of that. And this being on the back burner will not satisfy me. So I'm here tonight to say to this community what's going on, because you're not seeing it at the board meetings. It is hidden, disguised. Don't want to talk about how we got here. I guess I can accept that. Let's leave it alone. But I want to know how we're going to get this plane off the ground, when, and how. And I will not be satisfied until we begin that process. And so this is the beginning. And I hope everybody I sent the email to thinks about where we are, and if we really are a good community, we will be best to our children by educating them so that they can live in a complicated world that they're coming into. Outside of that, we are derelict in our duties, and a high tax rate that isn't supported by a grand list that's increasing. I think that's a no.
Question for you. School board generally does a retreat sometime in the spring, right?
Yeah, they're doing it on a Saturday. Yeah.
That's fine. Why not recommend or suggest or whatever that the whole focus of the upcoming retreat is addressing these issues with our placement in state rankings and stuff, our lack of reading ability of the younger kids, and make it not just a retreat among board members to sort of decide what they want to do for the next year, but make it among some of the teachers, more of a charrette sort of thing, where you're bringing the community together to brainstorm, perhaps, and get others on board. I don't know, Barry, would that work?
But,
Or at least
yes,
involve the
it
community
can,
some.
I think it's a step that needs to be taken. And the retreat, anybody can go to the retreat. You don't have to be invited, you don't have to, anybody can go to that.
And sit and listen.
Well, if that's the way they want to operate, yeah.
But that's, it's already on there, on your calendar. That'd be, and if it's a Saturday, people probably couldn't make it during the week for some reason, may be able to.
I attend all of these meetings during the week. If I attended a Saturday meeting, my wife would divorce me to leave. So, what can I tell you? We've been married for 56 years. I don't want to lose it, So, no, I can make Saturdays. And, but that being said, the rest of the community can show up.
Mm-hmm.
Teachers can show up. This is a declaration of war here. Let's come out and say what we want to happen.
Yep.
And how we want this to move. And if it's not an important problem, somebody needs to tell me that it's not. We're comfortable at the bottom of the barrel, we can't go any further down. Maybe I should smile at that.
Well, who knows? Someone may open a new school and we can bump down to 212 then. Or if a school closes, we may bump up to 210. But that's not the way you want to move on this list.
I'm not sure I would call that movement. That would be some sort of other thing I wouldn't. It's,
I would say probably the teachers you need to talk with. Find out what they think they need. I mean, I think it's traditional, on a regular frequency, it's like teachers get told, we're going to do this new best thing that everyone says is best, and then 6 months or a year later, oh, we got this other new best thing, so forget everything.
it's a deflection. But I'd like to do something that, you brought up the teachers. All right, I'm going to start with Herb. Herb doesn't do his job teaching the kids. Those kids then go to John. John's got an extra load on his hands. But maybe John says, wow, and just can't handle it. He hands it to Jeff. Jeff, the same thing. By the time it gets all the way up through, and it's been that way for years, the mindset changes what you're trying to accomplish and what the targets are. If you're playing a losing game, enthusiasm goes, morale goes, you want to do a good job. So when we take Herb and say, Herb, this is what you've got to do. This is the criteria. If you can't do it, we need a janitor. Sorry, Herb. And then,
Critical job in the school system.
yes, yeah, cleaning up the mess. Then we come to John. Now, John at that point says, oh, thank God. And Jeff says, we're headed in the right direction. Morale begins to build. By the time we get to Barry, hopefully, the whole aura of things has changed. We're going to educate these kids. We're doing it. It's more fun than what it was before. You don't have the doldrums. You don't have the problems. But I guess that's utopia, and I guess I'm full of shit. Sign on. You said maybe I ought to talk to the teachers. Teachers, come talk to me. Send a note. Send anything you want, what you think we need to do. It's the best way to learn. And I suggested the superintendent find a school out there who was down and brought themselves up and ask them how they did it. And I have said, I would support it. I'm not looking to cut this budget. I'm looking to say, we can put money into this budget. We can't put it into the one we already got. But we can look for places that we might pull something out of this year. But next year, if this plan is going, we're going to ask for more money.
Yeah, and you can always shift monies around to reinforce areas that need it.
Yeah. But asking for more money after you've run for a year and changed people's attitudes for at least the first graders and kindergarten, by the time you've changed that attitude and the targets, then maybe the public will see that we are strangling ourselves by our bad reputation.
Good luck.
Yeah, right. Thanks. It will happen if in fact everybody or the people who count make the decision that they want to change.
Yep. Anything else?
Oh, I'm all set.
Anyone else? State your name for the record, please.
Tim Beard. One thing I wanted to thank Hunter. I met with him last week and just discussed a wide variety of different things, and came into it with a certain impression and left with a completely different impression. And so I just wanted to thank him for that, because I know I've been accused of speaking about a lot of negative things, so I'll speak about something positive when I'm not, forced up against the 3-minute rule. But I want to thank Hunter, and anyone in the community that has a question, has an issue, just come reach out, talk to him. Super inviting, came in, answered my questions, and so I appreciate that. I want to thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I want to talk about the school, which is kind of ironic, I guess, coming to a Selectmen meeting to talk about that. But school seems to be like the #1 anchor here that's taking our whole town down. I don't have a lot of faith, present company, with the exception that the board really cares to hear what our opinions are in the community. Jeff, you spoke. I did a great job. I just don't think that board really thinks they need to address the community as you guys address the community. People don't seem to realize, I guess, that 2/3 of our taxes go to the school, but there seems to be no accountability there whatsoever. If I have a question, I come here and ask you guys. You guys will give me, if you can't give me an answer, you'll give me an answer. And it might not always be the answer I want, but that's not the point. The point is I get an answer. I've spoke several times to the board. It's a waste of time. I will keep doing it. I will not go away because I care and I get kids in the school and I want to see change. Someone's gonna have to rip the Band-Aid off, and Bert's trying to get it off, but I'm gonna pull it off, and it's unfortunate. It's gonna hurt a little bit for a little while here, and then we'll grow and we'll get better as a community. But we've got to do something different here. So the National School Board Association, the way they look at a school board member versus New Hampshire way, and this could actually explain maybe some of the issues that maybe we're having with our board. But so the school board's opinion for the national school board is there. The school board is there to support the decisions of the superintendent and the teachers. The role of the school board is to represent the community's voice in public education, providing citizen governance and knowledge of the community resources and needs. Board members are policymakers closest to the students. The school board is accessible to everyone in the community, is accessible to the, and is accountable for the performance of the school district. And that's the National School Board Association. Now, if you go to the last paragraph on the New Hampshire School Board Association, it says, last, school board leadership should be focused on end results, which I can't disagree with that whatsoever. The board should ask questions of what, why, how much, and how well. Board action should be focused on mission statements, goal-based outcomes, local board policies, academic standards, and sufficient communication with the community. And that line really is what gets me the most, is the whole sufficient communication with the community. So their board association, which they base a lot of their stuff off, is basically, you know, in lawyer terms, give the community the sufficient amount of communication that is needed to appease them, and then that's it. And that's how it's written. But if you look at the National Board Association, which I'm not a fan of them because they're the ones that are trying to get parents listed as domestic terrorists not long ago over mask mandates. But when it comes to their definition of a board, school board members and their roles, it fits perfectly. But the one that we're using is basically, hey, give the community the sufficient amount of information they need. And I know there's a big separation between the select board and school board. There's not, you guys don't have any oversight, but I don't know if, I think now's the time, if possible, to put political pressure down there and say, hey, we need to fix this issue, because I see no plan. Their plan that they present is, we make kids feel safe and we have good snacks and everything, that's going to fix how they read. And you know, the superintendent's reading a book about poverty and the social economic impact on teaching kids in poverty. This community is the same as it ours has been. I graduated in 2001. I come from a poor family. I think I did pretty good, and I just feel like now we've got a group of people like making excuses for the kids. Like, these kids don't need excuses. These kids need encouragement, and you know, how can we make this better? And I've been told that it's a bad reflection that I'm speaking down to kids. I'm not speaking down to any kids. The system, the Newport school system is failing every one of our children there. It's not the kids' fault. The kids can only learn what they're being taught. So I mean, that's my 2 cents on that. I do want to clarify something about the drug incident that was spoken about last time. I have proof that it was a drug, I can't say overdose, but we'll call it an incident, that was kind of swept under the rug with the school district. I feel like the school should have reached out to parents and said, hey, we had an incident, stuff happens, this isn't about the kid, I don't care who the kid was or anything, that's none of our business. The reality is that something serious happened and was swept under the rug. Talked to a lot of people, and like I said, I could show the board after if they want to see it, but I have proof, and I like not to speak about things unless I can back up what I say, so I was like, I'm not going to say nothing. Well, I need to get the information, and I now have the information, but so just to clarify that, it wasn't a medical emergency, it was a drug-related, I dare say overdose. I can't prove the overdose part, but I can prove the rest of it. So that's just something I want to make sure that the community is aware of. So the misinformation that is the information. So.
You know, Newport is not unique in that. I think last
No,
week,
absolutely
the week
not.
before, I think Hanover had 2 or 3 instances
Absolutely.
in 1 week.
This is not a Newport issue. This is a countrywide issue, and then this is not the fault of the school. I just don't like the fact that we as parents aren't being made aware of this situation. You know, it's not a Newport issue. It's an everywhere issue. Absolutely.
You mentioned earlier that the superintendent's reading up on kids in poverty or something. I'm a bit concerned about that, like he's pigeonholing our kids as
I believe that's exactly what's happening.
in poverty or such, like it sort of like provides excuses or something. I mean, our kids are we have a whole mix of kids. Certainly there's some kids from low-income families, kids with, you know, difficult family lives and stuff, but it's a whole mix, and we've always had it. And if he's just starting to read up on
that now and using that as an excuse. He's been here 3 or 4 years, so.
I mean, he has a doctorate, you know, so technically it's more education than probably any of us in this room, but education and common sense don't often go hand in hand, and, you know, next meeting I will address that. I actually bought the book. It'll be here on Wednesday. It's not a book I'm interested in reading, but I'll read it because it was brought to my attention, and that's fine, I'll read it, but, you know, I would counter that with, okay, why don't you read a book like Think and Grow Rich about Andrew Carnegie and, you know, positive impact and what the people back in that era did to become successful, and those are positive things, like, you know, positive mental attitude gets you out of anything. If you feel like you're down, and then we just have teachers that are, you know, backing that up, like, yeah, it's because you're poor, that's why you can't read, you can't do that, that's ridiculous. I don't accept that answer, I will not accept that answer, and,
Yeah, doing a disservice to the kids. Do we still have a PTO in Richards, and maybe was it PTSO in the middle high school? We don't have any sort of
I haven't heard.
parent-teacher organization?
The last I heard, I think it was more elementary school kind of thing.
Well, yeah,
but-
Richards, it would be like parent-teachers organization, and at one point they started one at the middle high school and included students, PTSO. And that generally is sort of like where you get your groundswell of support from the families and such.
Right.
But
There's a huge, you know, me and Hunter talked about this, it's almost like the town could really use a PR person, you know, like liaison, and school boards certainly, or the school could certainly use that, and like they're doing something down, I think they're putting in grandstands down at the high school, but like, I don't know anything about it, like, these are things that people should know, like, when they did the fields this summer, it was a grant. Okay, that's awesome, because all I ever hear is Newport has no money, and then I see fields being put in, I'm like, kind of suspect of that, right? But if you at least told people, hey, it's grant money, awesome, I'm all for it, let's do it, but there's just no communication between the school, and not so much in the town, a little bit on the town, but more on the school. There's no communication between the public and the school. If you don't have kids in the school, you know nothing about the school, and it's such a disservice. Like, there's a lot of positive things that happen in this town that everyone, like, for instance, if this field thing is a grant thing with stands or whatever, like, why would you want people to know that? Like, I just don't understand, like, I don't know.
I mean, on the town side, we sort of promote the grants we get all the time.
Yeah.
In fact, Herb's written an article that's going to be in the next Newport Times detailing it all. And I think he's going to be fighting with the editor about how much space he needs to listen to. But quite honestly, we're up to over $9 million worth of grants in the past year or so, and we're basically maybe in line for $10 million toward upgrades at the wastewater treatment plant. So.
I think it's just a PR thing on some of it. It's just so people know. I mean, no matter what, you're gonna get negative feedback. People are gonna complain, but at least if you can cut back a lot of that if you just have the information where it's like, we're doing this because we got this, or you know what I'm saying. I don't know. You were there, and like I said, I've been to enough meetings there now, and I remember meetings when I worked at NCTV back in 2000, 2001 when I was in school. Like, those school board members were like begging community members to come. Like, you know, this Anthony McConnell was there, and you know, we want people here, we want people here, we want people here. It's the complete opposite now. Like, if no one shows up, that'd be better. I mean, honestly, if they didn't televise the meetings, that I'm sure they'd like it even better, because it's unbelievable.
Yeah. No one shows up, you assume everything's going well, but when people show up, you should realize you're doing something.
Yeah, I mean, the community needs to get involved. I mean, you look at Croydon. Croydon's all the headlines right now, right? Now all of a sudden everyone cares. Well, if everyone showed up at the meeting that it happened, you never heard anything about Croydon, would you? Not one thing. It would just be like a normal budget like that happens here, and that's unfortunately sometimes what it takes to get parents involved. Like, now they're all mad because you cut your budget in half, and I don't support that. I don't think that's good for the kids. But it's a wake-up call too that, you know, we fund the school. All our tax dollars fund that school, and the way it's supposed to work is our voice is supposed to be heard, or at least acknowledged. And there's a lot of people in this community that have a lot of information that would be very helpful, I believe. Barry, yourself included, that could help that school, but it's like a shut-off society that you can't get into, because it's like, well, legally you have to be here, but we don't have to listen to anything you say. We don't have to address anything, because I've said many things and I've gotten zero answers whatsoever. It's unfortunate and it needs to change. That's my mission, is we're gonna change it. Like I said, I love this community, and like I said, it's gonna be some negative stuff that has to come out to wake people up, to try to fix this issue. But if we don't start knocking on the door down there and getting these people to wake up and acknowledge the issue and then fixing the issue, it's just not gonna happen.
And the way is, you don't approach it as, well, that's a negative thing. It's like, oh, well, this is an opportunity to make an improvement.
Right.
You look at your negative thing as an opportunity to.
That
benefit the
superintendent
kids.
could look like a rock star. You are 211 or 211. If you brought that up to 175, everyone's gonna be like, damn, you did a good job, right? Isn't that how that works? Like, if the town's doing bad, gonna blame select board, town manager. School's going bad, gonna blame, teachers usually get most of the blame, but the superintendent, right, it's the same thing. It's like, you have so much opportunity here, but we're gonna read a book about poverty and why, poor kids can't read as well, or whatever. It's like, it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And that's what the leader is leading with.
Teachers are often the scapegoat for.
Yeah,
things
we
that
have good
will-
teachers
they
in this
have little
community, very good
control.
teachers. We struggle with financing, paying them, and we would get even better teachers, because a lot of our great teachers have retired. But it's this big, huge circle of an issue we have here, and we can't make any of it better if we don't get our numbers up, and, it's a vicious cycle, but we gotta do something to fix it.
Okay, well, good luck down there.
Thanks.
Anything else? And, I'm sorry, I'm assuming you're a school board member from what they're.
I am.
Actually, a new school board member? And I'm sorry, I don't know you. Would you
Steve
like to
Morris.
introduce yourself to? I'm sorry.
Steve Morris,
Welcome, Steve.
school board member.
Congratulations, and now I have a face to put with the name.
Appreciate you coming out the other day and speaking.
Well, I felt it was about time. I haven't been to a school board meeting in a while. They're really not participant friendly. So, but anytime you want to come and sit in here and have a comment, you're more than welcome.
Appreciate it, thank you.
All right. Anyone else for open forum? Moving on, Board of Selectmen.
One more thing, Jeff, before you go.
All right.
The SRO is in the school budget.
Yes, half.
So-
That's split between the town and the school.
So do your darndest to get us an officer. Because if not, there's money left in that pocket. It's probably gonna get used.
And Hunter can confirm this, but until the PD get their 2 officers out of the academy, and then they have to go through field training before they can be out on their own, I believe the SRO position will be unfilled because that person is needed for patrol.
But then a line of communication that says something is happening might be good to hold that money in place.
Well, it's in the current budget,
Yes.
and I would assume since the school doesn't have an SRO, that's funds they can use this spring for other purposes. And it is in the budget for both entities next year. Hunter?
Yes, I spoke with Superintendent Minahan today, and he's fully appraised of the schedule and our intent to send an SRO back as soon as we come close to being at reasonable operating strength. So we're on the same page.
I talked to Brent earlier, and he said he was like this close to making it happen, so it sounded very positive, like we're getting close, so that's obviously a good thing.
But at this point, we do still have 2, officers in the academy, and once they come back later this month or so, end of this month.
Yes, the end of this month, and there's
And then there's time they need to
field training
spend,
officer time.
you know.
But there's a light at the end of the tunnel at this point, so that's
Yeah.
positive, right?
Yeah,
I have a question.
yes.
Does the SRO have to be a police officer? Because we've had a police officer at the high school for, 25 years now?
Since Jim Burrows was the first one.
I don't know when that was.
It would have been back when I was in school, it would have been around 2000.
When I heard there was a cop at the high school, to me, that was like the strangest thing in the world. Why is there a cop at the high school? I didn't have a cop at my high school. So,
Common practice
need one?
now.
no, I don't think we need one now.
It's,
I don't see, because to me, it seems kind of expensive on the town's part to pay a police officer and have a cruiser sitting down there all day.
well, it's generally not a frontline cruiser. It's
For
more
what?
Show, but, I think,
You know, why can't we hire a specific person instead of having a police officer on duty down
So I don't know the legality if you could, I mean, there's probably a lot of ex.
there? What exactly does he do? Does he like,
There's a lot more to it, there's a lot that happens there that no one knows
well,
about.
that's what I don't
It all
understand.
came out of.
The SRO
popular-
teaches classes.
Yes.
He's
Drug
there
process.
as a figure, and believe me, he or she finds out a lot
There's
and
a lot that
prevents a
happens
lot
there.
that's going on there.
Absolutely.
Also, from a comfort factor, as the principal, I was very glad to have somebody there that could talk things over with kids, talk things over with me about directions we should go. And they weren't just sitting there. You know, this was not a coffee donut exercise. This was real work that they were doing, and the
No,
kids loved it.
it's team since, I mean, since like Columbine back in 90, whatever.
99 or something.
Yeah, it came about then, and I think that was probably heavily for that reason, because of that kind of stuff.
Actually, Combine had a officer in the school.
Did they really?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. He didn't go in, but
If he was in, he retreated out.
yeah.
To answer your question the best I can, there's a lot more that happens at that school that you have no idea about that would show how much that resource officer is actually really, really needed there. Which, I mean, not always talk about all the bad stuff, but some of those things should really be, you should know as, you know, select board members, school board members should know things. I know things that no one in this room knows a lot of times because my kids, and then I'll get information, and you think school board members would know every single thing that happens at school, but
No.
that's far, not even close.
It's about relationship building too.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest parts of it, because kids will confide in them.
Yes.
And, you know, I found it to be one of the most valuable positions that I could have in the school.
That's interesting.
So Newport started out with teaching DARE.
Yeah.
And they taught that, and then it turns into a resource officer position, and, the whole time I was in high school anyways, that we had a resource officer, and, yeah, I get it, I totally understand the whole, like, why do we need a police
Well,
officer?
I had a discussion with one of them when my daughter was 13 and going to the high school down here. And the cop called me and had me come down, said, we want permission. He wanted permission to question my 13-year-old daughter about a rumor that another 13-year-old girl spread that another 13-year-old girl was going to beat her up. And I looked at the guy and I'm like, you gotta be friggin' kidding me. You're talking about rumors that 13-year-old girls are spreading. This is not criminal activity. Give me a damn break. And that's why I have a very low view of having a police officer at the high school.
I think-
That's my image of what he's doing.
Yep.
Like,
I think, as far as that goes, if you were to make an appointment, go talk to Brent about the resource, or sit down with that, and I think they can enlighten you on some of that, and you would sit there and say, I completely understand why there's a resource officer here now. Because, yeah, there's a lot to it. There's a lot of
So
drugs in that
why
school
isn't it,
stuff.
there was drugs in the high school I went to.
Yeah,
But
it's-
every kid there knew who those kids were, because we all had our groups to hang out with,
Right.
you know, and it was obvious. And if there was a teacher there that was unaware of that, then he was blind. Everybody knows what's going on there, and I'm willing to bet that every kid at this high school does too.
Oh, yeah, the kids know more about
So
school than you
where's
do.
the communication stopping? If there's that big of a problem, then parents need to be held accountable. This is your kid doing this,
I agree 100%.
so why aren't we doing something? I've never heard of any parents being arrested or anything.
Nah, it's never been that.
It's a societal issue. Nobody's held to account. I mean,
I don't know.
I
I'm
can
just-
argue that. I mean, there's not much accountability anymore.
Art, you had
Yeah, Jeff, one more point.
one more for you?
One more point. Yes, and this ongoing school board meeting here, was it posted properly? That being said,
You don't have a quorum.
there is a book that everyone in education should read, and it's called Why Meadow Died. Meadow was a daughter of an individual who did not take it lightly that she was killed in a school shooting. Everyone needs to read it, because when all is said and done, when you are said and done of reading it, you will have facts that prove that our school shootings began by our denial and our willingness not to take care of things. A child who had admitted he was a killer, acted like an animal in a classroom, telling that he would kill somebody, did. They checked his backpack every day. The day they didn't, one of the days they didn't, he came in and shot the place up. And then it talks about the confusion of what happened, or should have happened and did not happen. When you understand that, you understand what the National Education Association is doing to our education. When you say no child left behind, and you've got to include them all, if you include a killer, who's responsible? So, why Meadow died?
Virginia, did you want to add anything?
Oh, yeah. I certainly do. First of all, this is not a school board meeting. I thought it was a selectmen's meeting, but apparently you are the shadow school board. So the book that...
We're not the shadow school board. We're listening to people.
I understand that, but your engagement would lead me to believe that you have a lot of opinions that perhaps you should bring to the school board. The book that Mr. Beard referred to is called Teaching with Poverty in Mind. What being poor does to kids' brains and what schools can do about it. It in no way is an excuse for why students in the Newport school system are not doing as well as other students. It talks about the effect of poverty on children and families and their ability to then be successful. It's a book about brain development and how the brain is unable at times because of environmental issues to grasp the knowledge base that they need. And it also talks about not making excuses for poverty. So before you condemn what the superintendent is reading, and I would ask all of you what you're reading, I think you ought to think about what the point is. The point is to understand children and families who live in poverty. 50% of the students in the Newport schools qualify for free and reduced lunch. That's an income-based metric. So it's indicative that the income of several of those families are low or lower. And so we do have poverty, and we do have the situations where children are not as able to attend, and I mean physically be present, and you know what that means, Barry, and to be able and to be ready to learn. So I would not criticize the superintendent for reading a book to try and improve the lot of our kids who meet that metric. It isn't an excuse why we're failing, And I was at that school board meeting, and he never, ever indicated that that's why we can't do well. Oh, well, our kids are poor. That simply is not true, and that's a specious statement. I'm happy that Mr. Beard is engaged. I think the more people we can get engaged in the discussion, the better. But be careful about how you attack. Know what the issue is before you attack. And I'm sorry, Mr. Sayer, is it?
Yes?
That you had such a bad experience with an SRO. But I can tell you, and Mr. Condell can tell you, that that role has been critical in the Newport Middle High School. That you felt your 13-year-old shouldn't be engaged in that is a personal issue, but the value of that position has been unmeasurable to protecting kids, protecting teachers, protecting families, and stopping an awful lot of things that could have gone awry. And this is not the forum to have that discussion, but I would echo Mr. Beard's comments that you speak to the Chief of Police and talk about the role of the SRO, because I think in this community, it has been a boon. And that's my soapbox on this issue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I will educate myself further.
Can I say one thing real quick?
Yes.
I would just ask all the members of the board to watch the meeting, and you could make the decision for yourself, but it seemed very much like an excuse to me, and you all can watch the meeting and make that determination for yourself, but yeah.
Perhaps if the school board had more dialogue with basically their customers, such, errors in understanding what's being said could be avoided, or at least
Right.
remedied, so.
Right.
And I echo that. I think that's true.
Yeah, I think, it sounds odd bringing this to a select board meeting, but it very much involves the town and involves everyone in this room. If one branch of government in your town is not providing the way it needs to, and the other branch is suffering too, we're all in this together. It's all our tax dollars, it's all our kids, it's all our future, and yeah, I mean, if you guys could, some of you guys could pop in, Jeff, you were there last meeting, if some more you want to pop in and see how it all goes, I mean, you'll probably see the same thing I see, so.
I'd like to echo Barry's sentiment about the shadow school board comment. We're providing a platform for those who feel disenfranchised, can't make their comments at the school board, or don't have time. This is just a platform for open mic night. I mean, it's for those who feel that they need to speak and want to have their comments heard.
And it is part of our community. I mean, if you wanted to talk about the Croydon School Board, that's a different subject, but Newport is Newport. And, I, like the rest of us, would like to get out of here as soon as we can, but this is important and such, so we appreciate you coming. And
Could I just say one thing? That
Again?
If there, I haven't spoken hardly at all, and there's a lot that I'm holding back on here. But, and I'm reading a book on education, by the way, right now. But that's because I have to be certified. I get 30 hours for.
you've probably read more books on education.
Yes, I probably have, and I would volunteer if the committee comes up that is serious about examining change, I'd love to be on that committee. Because leadership and change was what I went to school for. And that's what we did in Newport. We had teachers, parents. We didn't have a school board. It was an interesting factor. We made changes and then told the school board what we were going to be doing. But that's probably the wrong way to do it, but we got it done. So I'd be more than happy to be on that. Thank you.
Anyone else for open forum?
A question for Barry.
Sure.
Barry, you had some success, I heard. Could you tell us what that success was with turning around and getting things done?
Well, we were successful in coming together and really trying to figure out what we needed to do to improve education. And we did a lot of interesting things. We really examined assessment and how it was carried out, and how we can help kids be more successful in dealing with school. And dealing with, okay, I got a test tomorrow. You'd be surprised how many kids come in and they haven't done any studying for that test. So we really worked at the instruction coinciding with assessment as they moved along. So we knew what we needed to teach, we taught it, and we assessed how the students were moving forward.
Was it,
Simple
were you
solution.
successful? Did you see improvement?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Thank you.
A lot of improvement, actually. And, we dealt with poverty, but that didn't mean that they couldn't learn. They did. They did learn, because they were excited about learning. I had good people. I had very good people around me.
Thank you, Barry.
Yes, state your name for the record.
John Lund. I too have been reading books on education lately, and I've been talking with students, I've been talking with the teachers and the administrators, I've been talking with the CTE director, the principal, the middle school principal, and the superintendent. I don't believe your assessment of what happened at last week's meeting was accurate, but people should watch it. It is on TV, so they can assess for themselves. But I don't believe that the people at the school are not trying to do something and make change. I don't get the feeling, and I've been at every one of these meetings now for 4 years since I've been running the cameras behind the scenes. I've been at all of them and watching what's going on, and I think that they are open-minded to listening to people. Maybe they are closed about whether or not you can speak for more than 3 minutes, but it doesn't mean that they're not listening to people, and people can come and talk and give written testimony. Most people don't have more than 3 minutes worth of talk. They've got something to say. If they've got something else to say, then they can still get up and say it. Nobody's saying you can't get up, and nobody is stopping somebody from getting up. But maybe it needs to be more open and what have you to move forward with a lot of different things. But I think that it's not such a terrible environment as is being made out to be tonight. Although I do know that we do need to improve the school, we need to improve the results, we need to bring up the level of education, and the idea of dealing with poverty and what's going on with poverty is, I would agree with Virginia, that that is part. It's not the entire situation, but it is part of the situation that we need to deal with in the school, and therefore moving forward and reading about those things and bringing them to the board and bringing them as part of the discussion is essential, as well as everything else that's going on here. It's got to be a part of what's happening here. So I think disparaging that is a mistake. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? All right, moving on. Board of Selectmen. Barry?
Oh, I'm all set.
Keith?
I'm all set as well.
John?
Forgive me for saying anything more about school stuff, but I guess the only thing that I am thinking of right now, and I point the finger at myself, I've always kind of wished there was an alumni association for Newport. I think I know there's a lot of, and maybe there is, but I don't know about one.
No, there isn't.
I know there are some pretty interesting and robust ones not too far from us. And I think there would be might be something worth bringing up at the next board meeting. Maybe we could kick one off, because there's some pretty dynamic folks that are still around, or that aren't too far away, that might be interested in taking place in some of these discussions. And maybe the way to get some people re-engaged is, hey, it's a new year. We've got some new board members, and here's an idea. How about we create an alumni association? And who knows? Maybe you get some new blood that wants to talk about doing some stuff differently. That's really all I have. Because I'd probably at least show up for the first meeting. My wife and I are both Newport alums, and arguably have done halfway decent for ourselves, and I'd be proud to help out once in a while. Not interested in running for school board anytime soon, but I'd be interested in being part of an alumni thing that, got together and talked about real stuff once in a while. So,
Anything else?
not today.
All right, Herb?
As was mentioned earlier, I'd just like to point out that everybody got a copy of the draft article. Deadline is Friday, so if you have any suggestions or comments, get them to me right off so I can make adjustments and polish this thing up and get it in.
All right. Thank you for doing that.
No problem.
Just want to remind people, it was mentioned earlier in this meeting, much earlier, that tomorrow is the deliberative session for the town voting. It starts at 6 p.m. in the Newport Middle High School gymnasium. We will be going over the different warrant articles. People will have an opportunity to ask questions about them, and if people wish, the monetary amounts and money articles can be modified. However, I think as Virginia said, the intent of those articles cannot be changed. And that's 6 p.m. tomorrow at the Newport Middle High School. Bring your photo ID. And I really didn't want to say it, but I will say one thing. We mentioned poverty in the school system and all. I think for most of the past 2 years, the feds have been paying for breakfast and lunch for all kids in the schools. And I think that's due to end soon. So talking about, I guess, the impact of nutrition on learning, we may see a change once some kids may not be getting that breakfast and lunch every day. And that's all I got to say on that. So, Hunter, anything?
Not really, just one little piece of information that people ought to be aware of. The state will be doing some drainage work on Main Street between Central and Sunapee Streets on the east side of the road, and that may cause some congestion and delays over the next couple of weeks, but it'll start in the next week or two. It'll run for probably a few weeks after that, but just something to be aware of as you're coming and going.
Okay. All right, anything else?
No, thank you.
Moving on, informational. Community center update. We have a warrant article for the community center. It will be, we will probably talk about, it will be modified at tomorrow's meeting. Currently, right now, as written, the warrant article is for a community center with a cost of about $7 million. With $3 million to be raised through grants, donations, and other non-tax vehicles. I believe right now we have commitments for about 2.7 or 2.8 million, and then we would bond for $4 million over probably 20 years to pay the rest. On the 14th of last month, and I mentioned this at our last meeting, our engineering firm Breadloaf updated their cost estimate for the community center, said with construction in 2023, and as firm as anyone can estimate what construction costs will be in another year or so, they're saying the cost may be as high as $8.7 million, which is about $1.7 million more than we have been talking about. So we will be discussing how we want to modify that warrant article when we get to the warrant articles tonight. But whether the community center is a $7 million project or an $8.6 million project. It's something the community needs. It will only get more expensive going forward. Also, along with that change in the cost estimate, Red Loaf updated their estimate for the cost of renovating the existing rec center, half the size of what the new community center would be. Last year they were saying that would be about $3 million to renovate it. Now they're saying with their, best guess for most conservative cost estimates, we're looking at close to $4 million. So the cost of doing nothing and hoping we can just fix up the old center is going up. And it is an 80 plus year old facility that was never meant to be used as a rec center. So that's all I'll say on community center right now. Review and assignment of warrant articles. All right. Tomorrow's warrant has 18 articles in it, if you count the last one to conduct any other business. The first article is to elect 2 selectmen for 3-year terms. And that will be those people running for those positions will be on the ballot on May 10th, if I remember right. Yes, May 10th. Article 2 will be to elect a moderator for a 2-year term. The third article will be to elect a supervisor of the checklist for a 6-year term. Fourth article will be to elect a trustee of the trust fund for a 3-year term. Then Article 5 will be an article to amend the zoning ordinance to modify how we deal with sheds in all zoning districts. And I'm not going to read that tonight. We're going to be reading it tomorrow. The warrant is posted. People can read it online if they want. But it will be read tomorrow, and an opportunity for discussing it will be tomorrow. Who would like to present Article 5 tomorrow? Who's on the planning board? You guys can...
I am, but it looks like at best I'm going to be late tomorrow, so I'm probably going to have to bow out of the first round.
Okay. John, you going to be there?
Sure, yeah, I'll do it.
Okay. Article 6 is the community center, which we're going to modify. And do we want to talk about that now or wait until we go through them all first? What I'll do, I'll take Article 6 unless anyone else wants it.
That's good.
All right. Article 7, beef is for another bond for $75,000. The development management plan for the Door Lagoons. And who would like to talk on this one or present this one?
I'll do it as long as I get sort of a cheat sheet like you gave us last year to answer any questions. I mean, I'm not totally up on sludge, so.
This is a no-cost warrant article. However, because of the funding mechanism to reimburse us from the state, it has to be bonded. And then the state would reimburse us the total cost of the bond.
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah.
I just want to, are you going to give us like you did last year? That was helpful.
Sounds like I am.
Good. Thank you.
I can give you the same one from last year.
We didn't have this last year. Yeah.
All right. Barry. Article 8 is the operating budget for the town. And I
Jeff.
guess I'll take that one.
Yeah.
Because I was on the BAC. Article 9 is the contract with the police union. Who would like to take that one?
Oh, look at that.
I'll do it.
I'm not sure I'll be back.
Yeah.
All right. John will take that one.
So you're going through all this tomorrow night at the?
What we do is basically,
You get up
the
and
ones
talk.
we assign, you would then get up and read the article, make a motion to this, and someone would second it. And then you can speak on it if there's anything you want to say on it. And pretty much Paul will have it all written we'll have the article in big print, so you don't have to squint to read it. And you have 2 copies, one for you and one you will then hand to the moderator, so they can have it like their official copy. And people, you know, if no one asks a question, you can sit down. If someone asks a question, you can respond to it. Or someone else can respond to it. But at this point, it's just who's going to read the article, you know, as a motion and get it read in, you know, so that people can discuss it or they know what it is.
I'll do Article 10.
All right, Communication Capital Reserve.
You're gonna tell me what that,
Article
I don't
11.
look like an idiot.
Where have you been this whole time?
All right,
John, I am one to be prepared when
I
I'm
understand.
public speaking.
All right.
Put me down for
'Cause if
11,
I don't
hopefully I'll be
talk-
back.
He
11.
jumps in and says, yeah.
All right, Herb will take 11 on the $10,000 for the rec facility capital reserve fund.
Somebody may have to step in.
I'll fill in for her. I'll fill in for any
We-
of that. Her
we will-
weakness.
yeah. All right,
You probably ought to take at least one.
Yeah,
yeah, we're gonna.
he's
do
gonna take 12.
See if the town will vote for $60,000.
Yeah, basically it's to pay for the next ambulance.
Putting money
Put the money
aside.
aside. All right, 13, $10,000 for district court capital reserve.
I'll do that.
All right. And 14, $4,000, that's petition.
That's petition, we don't
those.
do it.
Okay.
Yep.
14 is a petition article, $4,000 for visiting nurse and hospice of Vermont and New Hampshire. Article 15 is a petition article for $6,370 for West Central Behavioral Health.
No, it was recommended by the select.
Yeah, it was. Article 16.
Jeff,
Yes.
if there are no petitioners to get up to speak, you're just gonna read it, right?
If we have to,
Yeah.
we can do that.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, normally it's nice for someone.
Somebody gets up, but they
You
might
know.
not, yeah.
Article 16 will be another petition article for $10,000 to support the Sullivan County Transportation Program operated by Southwest Community Service. And Article 17 is $85,000 increase to the fire department budget, also by petition. So I think, are we set with that?
Yep.
What do we want to do with the community center? How do we want to reward that? Mr. Brown?
I would recommend that the board not take any action on rewarding that. The opinions that we have from legal counsel say that any voter can make an amendment of these things. Technically, the board of selectmen, if they were going to add something to their approved budget, would need to talk about it at a public hearing, and the higher number has never been discussed at a public hearing.
Okay.
So you can talk about it, and if somebody on this board wanted to make an amendment, we could make sure that that was typed and ready. But the board should not. I would recommend that the board not take a position on
Okay,
this.
so any member of the public, including a member of the board, as a member of the public.
Any voter is what
Any
came
voter.
back from legal counsel.
So, should we not then, or should we, with transparency, bring out the fact that Brad Loaf has come in with a higher amount?
We did that tonight, and we did it at our last meeting.
Okay, so in reading of this, you're not gonna mention that?
No.
Okay.
But
I
then
don't wanna know.
a voter can step up
Yeah, sure.
and offer an amendment.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right, thank you for that clarification.
We'll write up that amendment in advance, so it can be
So if there's
offered to whoever
if there's
cares
a
to make
voter
it.
there that would like to offer it, they can do it.
Right.
Okay. All right. And that takes care of the warrant articles. Small.
Good.
Next up, golf course discretionary easement. This is a renewal at the 10-year anniversary, correct, Paul or Hunter? Okay, do we know what the actual amount we are
That's what I'll,
doing the easement of? That was the question last time.
Yes, based on the current tax rate, it was $6,900.
That-
So,
Which
The
is what is
for-
the
you're forgiving.
value of the easement.
so basically, we're basically abating, or whatever the term is, $6,900 a year.
And that's, part of it is unusable land, am I right? Is that part of the reason for the
Well, it's in a
easement?
floodplain.
Yeah, I know.
Not usable for much.
Pretty much it's because I think it does sort of collect flood water and slow down the
Slow down, right? Yeah.
transmission of water downstream, like on Horsey Park. And also it'll, as part of the discretionary easement, they permit the high school golf team to practice there and allow sledding and such in the winter.
Flooding,
Cross-country
cross-country skiing,
Yeah.
walking in the spring and summer, as long as you don't have a stick and ball in your hand.
Yeah. So as long as you don't have any
Say,
dog
you know,
digging
yeah.
holes on the greens, you're all right.
They also
Probably
allow
would be
charitable,
fine also.
Yes.
they have charitable events up there too.
Do they?
They allow.
Okay. Yeah, but,
That's, there's a couple of golfing events that they do and,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah. Anyone want to make a motion on renewing?
I move that we renew the Newport Golf Course discretionary easement. Do I need to say the amount or not? No.
Because the amount will change.
Yeah,
depending on the
okay,
value.
so that's what I'm gonna say. Anybody want a second?
I'll
Second.
second that.
Go ahead.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? All right. Next up. I'd like a motion to go into non-public session under RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2, small c, reputation.
So moved.
Second.
Barry?
I just hope we get out by 9, because
Yes or no?
yes,
Okay. Keith?
Yes.
Academy Awards or something?
no,
John?
basketball,
Yes.
national championship.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. All right, and there'll be no decision made when we come out.
Good night.
All right.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks for coming.
Oh.
All right.
You didn't know that the basketball national championship was playing in
What was it?
That's
Kansas-
okay.
Kansas and North Carolina. right?
Yes,
Yeah, that's fine.
Duke's out.
Yeah, North Carolina team was pretty happy about that.
Yeah, and my team last night, my Yukon team got smashed by South Carolina. Oh, yeah.
But the women's?
You just started out that, I mean, that, just a bad beginning, just ruined the.
Yeah, I'll tell you, South Carolina was a much better team, much better.
Yeah, but they didn't really increase their lead anymore. I mean,
They didn't need to.
whatever they got,